And welcome to Thrift Shop Biography. This is the one about David Bowie.
And Angie.
Thank you for listening. Hello, Cleo.
Hello, Richard.
How are you?
I'm all right, actually. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks.
Oh, good. Anyway, today we're doing David Bowie.
David Bowie. Do you know, there's always, like, you call him Bowie, I call him Bowie, but I called him Bowie for years. And, like, the purists say, no, it's Bowie, right?
I've seen him in interviews. He doesn't care because it's not his real name.
It's not his real name.
I literally saw him being interviewed. I think it was Paula Yates saying, is it Bowie or Bowie? And he goes, yes. And he's like, I really don't care.
Right.
You know, he's named after a knife. Named himself after a knife.
Yeah, that's what I learned from this book, that he was literally named after the knife. So is it a Bowie knife or a Bowie knife?
I don't know, but...
Can I tell you something else in this book that calls the pronunciation into question?
Yeah?
Is that they call their child Zowie.
Zowie.
Like Zowie. Zowie Bowie.
Yeah, Zowie Bowie.
But if it was Bowie, it would be Zoe.
Oh, what if it's Zoe?
But it's a boy baby.
Zoe Bowie.
Now, mind you, they wouldn't care about that because they're so bisexual.
Yeah, exactly.
They're so bisexual, these two, honestly.
Yeah, they really are.
So you say it's about David Bowie, but actually it's Angie Bowie's book. So it's about her, really.
This is Angela Bowie's life with David Bowie, yeah. Well, yeah, it's just their time together. So actually it's just a snippet of David Bowie's life, really. 10 years, and she wasn't even there half the time.
I know, and from what I learned, what she tells us about his early years, it's like, oh, God, I wish he wrote his book because I would love to know the details of that.
Yes. This is one piece of a massive puzzle.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
massive,
for sure.
Colourful, amazing puzzle. And it's just like, if you're a fan, you just have to read this and then read everything else. And he's lived a massive life and she's just a small part of it, really. Although she likes to claim.
I think she's an important part of it.
She's the founding member.
Oh, were you just about to say?
Yeah.
Okay. I know something about Angie Bowie, and even like the David Bowie diehard fans, the purists, you know, the people who absolutely idolise him.
Yes.
They might not like Angie Bowie, but they all kind of accept that she played a very important part at the beginning of his career as he crossed over into the artist that he became.
I get that.
They really do credit her, you know, even people that really don't like her.
No, I do get that. I started off sort of bristling, thinking, who's this woman who thinks she's made David Bowie? David Bowie's amazing, he made himself. And then I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. It is quite possible that she's the one who made him famous. He was always an amazing man, but she may have made him famous.
I think that he's a creative genius, but as we know about these artists, you know, the music industry is a business. And artists flounder around. They're not good. They don't have business brains. And I think that Angie Bowie was the piece of the puzzle. I think together they became a very good force to move his career forward.
Yeah, creative business team.
I think he might have done it without her, but it would have happened in a different way. And dare we say it might not have been as successful? I don't know.
Might not have gone global.
I think he might have been swayed by the industry more and not became the artist that he became with Angie by his side. I think he might have allowed himself to be more shoehorned into an acceptable pop commodity of the time, maybe.
Yeah, that's quite possible. Well, I have to say, I sort of know his life, but I didn't realise how long it took him to actually get there. All the failures and different bands and albums that flopped and went nowhere.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it took him ages. And only after all that did he take 2 years off.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get into that, but it's...
But when you came to that realisation, did you actually notice that the catalyst that started the success was actually when he met Angie Bowie?
Yeah, no, it really was. Yeah, I can't deny it.
Yeah. So what do you know about her before you read this book? Do you know anything at all?
I remember her being on the Celebrity Big Brother and being a lunatic.
Oh my
which
God,
probably
that was amazing.
Tainted my opinion of her a bit, because how can she have made Bowie when she's off her head? That's absolutely ridiculous. Because she was in that house when David died, wasn't she? And so somebody came in the room and she said, David's gone, he's dead. And there was someone in the house. It was David Guest. Who was it in
David
the house?
Guest
David
was in
Guest.
the house,
And they all thought he'd died.
And he was ill. He was ill. He had a cold and went to bed. And then Angie Bowie comes out and says, David's dead. And they thought she meant David guessed. Yeah,
Yes.
what an extraordinary comedy of errors.
How to make a farce of David Bowie dying. I know. It's ridiculous.
And do you know what? I revisit that clip because it's so extraordinary.
Yeah. Do you?
And I love watching it all, people piece it together, like watching it all unfold. It's reality TV gold. But anyway.
That's really the most I knew about her.
Yeah, but let's be honest, that is probably what most people in the UK know her for.
Yeah.
Because that clip became so popular.
That's true.
But before that, I knew that she was a bit of a crazy character. I knew that she was generally regarded as an important figure in the making of David and Ziggy. So I knew she had her place in his history, that she wasn't just a wife, if you know what I mean.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, shall we begin?
Oh my God, we should begin.
Talking a bit about her background. Yeah, let's begin.
Angie Bowie.
Mary Angela Barnett. Her dad's from the UK and her mum's Polish, but she's an American citizen. But she actually grew up in Cyprus, so she's very international.
Yeah.
Yeah, she went to an English school and then she went to a posh boarding school in Switzerland from 9 to 16. So she's very well educated.
I hate that.
You hate it?
I hate that her family sent that poor girl at the age of 9 to a different country, to a boarding school.
9. A child.
I mean, how dare they? I hate it when people do this to their kids.
Yeah.
She's 9 years old.
Why do you have kids?
It does make me wonder, because, right, let's be honest, just from reading this book, and we usually say when people write these books, they put their best self forward.
Yes.
Angie Bowie kind of doesn't. You know by reading the book that she wrote that she's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah,
right?
yes.
And she's nuts. And I wonder whether she was a bit of an unruly child, even at the age of 9.
Possible.
And her parents kind of thought, oh, God, let's ship her off to the Swiss
Pack her off,
finishing school. Because the Swiss schools really do have... That's where you send your young girls if you want to turn them into a lady, as it were.
Oh, that's true. That is true.
Because otherwise it just seems so brutal to send a 9... Not just a boarding school, but to like a different country.
Yeah, which came first? Was she unruly and got packed off, or did she get packed off and become unruly? We'll never know.
Right, yeah, we'll never know.
When she was the most significant thing that happened at boarding school was she completely fell in love with a fellow inmate, a girl,
Lorraine,
and she had a proper relationship with this girl, and they were properly in love. I'm imagining it was nearer the age of 16 because it seemed to be the end of her school time. Because when it got discovered, it was a really big showdown, and this girl just disappeared. She never heard from her again. That was the end of it.
Well, her parents put her in a mental institution.
That's right. Yeah.
Which must be on the basis that she had a lesbian affair at school. I mean, how medieval is that? Well, it's not medieval, is it? How very 1960s is that?
Yeah, exactly.
That poor girl. Yeah, but then Angie's parents also reacted to that.
Yeah.
They shipped her off to London to go to college. So that tells you something else about her parents. They never brought her home and showed her parental love.
No, they didn't.
And kind of helped her. They got rid of her to another foreign country at the age of 16.
That's true. And they've told her that who she is wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the basis, that's her foundation for the rest of her life. So she just carries on being wrong, basically, and makes her life out of it.
And do you know what? It does help me to understand her.
Yeah, me too.
I like her anyway, but I know a lot of people don't. But she is very brash and outspoken. I mean, she even comes across as bitter in this book, but everything that happens to her, I can allow her.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes her a bad person.
Everything comes through in this book.
She's a product of what happened to her.
Yeah, she's a nightmare. She's lovely. She's soft. She's vulnerable. She's everything. Yeah, she's very honest, that's for sure.
And she's very, very interesting. She really is.
Yeah, she is. So she, with a massive brain, well educated, she ends up in London doing a marketing degree, which she doesn't finish.
Yeah. See, I think that's very important, actually, that it's marketing. But anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's very true. But her dad had refused to send her the funds to go to drama school because she just wanted to be an actor and a performer.
Yeah.
But she couldn't go to drama school, so she had to find another way in. This was her way in, just to get in amongst all the interesting people. The in scene of London where it's all happening.
In the swinging 60s, there's no better place on earth at this point.
Swinging 60s. Yeah, the Beatles, you know, all those people opened up the whole of London to become a mecca for musicians and creative people. They paved the way, and all of this whole scene to just explode. So 1968 is the key time.
Yeah.
And along comes David Bowie, whose real name is...
David Jones.
David Jones, yeah. So, yeah, the name thing is that Davy Jones was in the Monkees.
Yes.
Which is why he had to change his name.
And also, David Jones is just such a generic name. Oh, mind you, Tom Jones is a generic name. Didn't do him any harm.
Yeah, that's true.
Do
you know what? I remember seeing an interview with David Bowie when he was like, I don't know, he was about 16 or something. It's a black and white thing, and he was in some studio audience. And he is so well-spoken and intelligent and articulate. I nearly couldn't say that, which is ironic. Yeah, and he wasn't even, a pop star or anything. He was just a lad in the audience. He's amazing even then. He's very well-spoken, and yet he's born in Brixton from real working-class parents.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was born in 1947, so he's actually 3 years younger than Angie.
Older?
I mean older. Yes. And his dad was from Yorkshire. See, okay, he's got quite a mixed-up family. His dad's from Yorkshire, and he'd had an affair with a cinema usherette called Peggy.
Peggy Burns, I love that name.
Peggy Burns, yeah. And that ended his 13-year marriage. He already had, it's complicated, he already had a daughter that he'd adopted from an extramarital affair with a nurse. Something like this. And then David Bowie's mum, Peggy, had already had a kid 10 years earlier called Terry.
Yeah.
So there's quite a mixed up family. Then they got together and had 2 more kids. Is that right?
Yeah, it is.
But all sorts of people lived with them.
Yeah, Terry, the older brother, went off, he was kind of a bit mentally unstable, and he went off to war, like on an active battlefield, and it really affected him. And then he I don't know whether he had it before, whether he developed it when he came back, but he was schizophrenic.
Yeah, PTSD.
Which, of course, meant he'd be away in the facility and then he would come home, which I think caused a lot of friction for mum and dad. But little David really idolised his big brother. And his brother was obviously into art and stuff and into the beat poets, and that kind of influenced David. Yeah, and it sounds like it was quite a dysfunctional household.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it?
His dad actually inherited a shoe fortune. Wasn't his dad like a shoe manufacturer or something?
I think so.
And then his dad inherited it. And then with that money, his dad opened a nightclub.
Yeah, Soho.
And he lost that money quite quickly and then had to go and get a job. I think he was a PR man for Bernardo's, a children's charity.
Yeah.
So there's kind of some excitement and upheaval and lots of things going on in the household that little David Bowie grew up in.
And his mum had been a member of Oswald Mosley's fascist pro-Nazi black shirts.
Yeah, right.
That's dubious, isn't it? I mean, he gets really fascinated by the Nazis much later in Berlin, but I mean, you would, being born in 1947, It's all really mixed up. And there's a lot of schizophrenia in the family on his mother's side.
Yeah.
And he said that's one of his biggest fears, was becoming schizophrenic, was going mad. He thought it could happen to him. He thought it's going to run in the family.
But I wonder, as we go, we know that he has these different stage personas, like Ziggy Stardust. And I wonder if that's him getting in there before schizophrenia comes for him.
That's it.
He's adopting different personas.
Yes. I'm sure it is. He's basically obsessed with that. But also, amazing to me, I did not know, his amazing different eyes.
Yeah.
His one eye's different from the other. I just thought he was born a sort of weird alien man. But he wasn't. His mate punched him in the eye in an argument about a girl. He spent 4 months in hospital and the retina never recovered, and now he's got 2 different eyes. So maybe he isn't an alien after all. Maybe it's just a normal bloke.
And he really stayed friends with that boy who punched him in the head. And that guy, designed a couple of LP covers, I think.
An album cover. Yeah, right. Well, he did him some favours, didn't he?
Yeah.
Those eyes are amazing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Anyway, he was in all sorts of bands. The Beatles inspired him. He got into skiffle. He was signed to Pie.
Yeah, I knew he'd been in a band, and I knew that he has this manager called Ken Ken
Pitt, yeah.
who was grooming David Bowie to be like like the cabaret singers at the end of the 60s, like Anthony Newley.
That's right.
Did we read about him? Is that the one that was married to Joan Collins? Did we read about him in her book?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's kind of like a crooner and,
Because he's got a lovely voice.
Yeah, he really
voice.
does. And that's how he was being steered at the beginning of his career.
Yeah, working man's clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
It is really. Have you seen
Can't
that first
imagine it.
LP cover?
Yeah.
In 1967, this is before he met Angie. He actually released an album as like the cabaret singer, if you like, and just the cover is just of his head, but you can tell that they're certainly marketing him a different way to what he eventually became.
Yeah, that's right.
But
so he gave it all up in 1968 to go and study mime and commedia dell'arte for 2 years. Yeah.
with Lindsay Kemp.
That's a major change.
Yeah, it is.
1968, so it'd have been 21.
That kind of shows you, though, that his heart, his creative aspirations are more than just music. They're in performance, they're in self-expression.
Exactly.
But we know that. You only have to look at his work, especially in the 70s.
Yes.
To know that he's a fully accomplished performer. It's not just about the music. Yeah, and he's with the Lindsay Kemp International Troupe for 2 years. I think he's doing music. I mean, a lot seems to happen in these 2 years. And I think he might be actively pursuing music while he's also with Lindsay Kemp.
Yes.
Otherwise, I can't imagine how he fit it all in.
No, right. But yeah, he tours with Mark Bolan and T-Rex, third on the bill as a mime act. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's hard to imagine now. Could you imagine if, like, the Arctic Monkeys did a gig and then their support act come out and it was just somebody doing mime?
Yeah.
It's odd, isn't it?
But
I guess that's
really
what was
weird.
happening at that point. We were all bohemian.
Yeah, it's the 60s, performance art, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his relationship was with a dancer for 2 years as well. He's definitely one of those people who's a sponge, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like, he will take whatever's around him, take the best of it, travel with that for a while. And then when the next thing comes, he'll move on to that.
Yeah, he's an artist.
He's a real artist,
being influenced by his surroundings. But I think he's also consciously going where he wants to go. I don't think he's being swept along. I think he's pursuing things that he is interested in, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, true.
So he's had a modicum of success in the music industry, not chart success, but he's been signed, he's been in bands, he's released albums, and then he's gone off and had a couple of years finding himself as an artist. Music industry people know who he is, right? He has a manager, and there's this A&R guy for Mercury Records who's kind of in love with him. And then Angie, who's in London, immersing herself in the scene because, she wants to get into the arts and have a successful career. And she meets this A&R guy. They convince the boss of Mercury Records to go to the Roundhouse where Bowie is performing, I think with a band at this point, but they know he's the standout person.
Yeah.
And they go and watch him. And because I think Angie slept with the A&R man, right? And he's like,
She sleeps with everyone, sleeps with everybody. It is the 60s. This is one big sex catalogue, isn't it? I mean, it's unbelievable. Everyone sleeps with everyone. Everyone slept with Bowie himself, male and female. It's just all going on. Foursomes, the lot. All of it. It's all happening.
It's all happening.
Just to sum it all up so we can save a lot of time.
So just for everyone that we talk about have been in bed with each other.
Assume everyone's had sex with everybody else. Right. That's right.
That's easy.
Easy.
So then the head of the record label is a bit reluctant to sign him. But Angie, who I think has also slept with him, it's weird. She's his date, even though she's come with the guy, the A&R guy.
That's right.
So she's shagging everyone.
Yes.
And basically she says, you have to sign this guy. He's brilliant. And she doesn't really know him at this point, but she is captivated by him. He is so charismatic. I can imagine, actually, you just have to lay eyes on him and
absolutely.
you would fall in love with him.
Yeah.
It seems to happen to a lot of people. They just fall in love with him on sight. And then they kind of do sign him to Mercury. And that's when Angie kind of just seems to, they become part of each other's lives now.
Yeah.
And they start hanging out. And she goes to the recording studio. This is the time when he's recording the second album, which is also called David Bowie, not to be confused with the first album, like the Cabaret style album. But he's kind of beginning to do his Space Oddity thing. So he's being less of a cabaret person and more of an artist with the influence from all the arty things he's been doing.
I was going to say, but in amongst all that really cool stuff, he goes to Italy and wins a song contest.
Oh, yeah.
It's really weird because you just can't relate the cool persona of Ziggy Stardust to somebody who goes to win a song contest. But that's when Angie's influence really kicks in, because she flies over there and takes 2 Victorian outfits, like a big ball gown and a really nice suit for him with frilly collars sort of thing. And the manager, Ken, Queen Ken, she calls him, he's really put out because actually Ken's got a massive crush on David, of course. And who is this woman? And they dress up and make this massive entrance, and it's just a bit weird and different. And then he wins the song contest, they're proving that her vision, costumes really count and theatricality really counts. And that's the way David wants to go, not just standing there in a suit crooning. So he starts seeing this and he wins the contest. He starts seeing her as someone who can help him win.
Yeah, there is this real period of transition now where he still has this manager, Ken, who is very much trying to market and promote David Bowie as a nice, clean-cut, suit-wearing mod, I suppose.
Yeah.
But then Angie is recognizing the artistic side of David, and she's really pushing for it.
Yeah, theatricality. Yes.
But he's still under contract with Ken, so he still has to go along with that. And while they're recording this album and being a bit more arty, Ken is shipping them out on the road, doing all of the old working men's clubs, the cabaret circuit. So there's a real contrast going on, isn't there?
Yes, definitely.
And I think without Angie, Bowie would have been trapped in that world.
Yeah, he might have.
She was like the bold force that kind of put the mockers on it all. And like you say, she got the Victorian clothes and she flew to Italy and she helped them make this entrance. Yeah, I think it clearly illustrates how much of an influence she had on his early career.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Right, and at this time, by the way, David's dad died, right? He had pneumonia, and he finds out that his mum had waited too long to call the doctor. She knew he was really getting really bad and she should have called the doctor and she didn't. And he had an oxygen tank. She'd left it just outside the room and he died of asphyxiation alone in the room trying to get to the oxygen tank, which was outside the room. That's awful. That's negligence. And he's very angry about that.
Wow.
That's just something that must have really shaped his early life, because that's bad. That's really bad.
It's horrendous. I mean, Angie does say that she got on very well with David's dad, but not with Peggy, his mum.
Yeah, she's a bit of a nightmare, and she causes her havoc for ages. I think it may be, he seems to think that his mum had abandoned Terry a lot over the years, and I think it might be a foundation of a bit of mistrust of women, especially when Angie became a mother.
Right. Yeah.
Thinking that she isn't a fit mother, just really mistrusting women mothers, because he didn't have a great example.
After that funeral, because Angie went home with him to the funeral, and I think they went up and stayed in his boyhood bedroom.
Yeah.
She said that's where they really bonded that night. And as well, Angie kind of also does begin to look after, when they live together, like in future years, Terry, the older brother, she opens up the home to him and he comes and lives with them for periods of time. Do you know what? I can't help but like her. I do think essentially she's a very good egg.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
With also recognising she's also a complete nightmare.
Yeah, I know. Agreed.
I think those two things can exist together,
They can. They definitely can. Here's an example.
She's very alpha. Do you know what? I just think it's kind of probably a bit...
Yeah.
It's like behaviour we usually see in men, and we allow men to behave like that. She's being very confident. She's being very alpha. She's outspoken. And I think sometimes we judge women more harshly when they have that behaviour.
Do you know what? You're right. It's hard for her because she's trying to balance that with being a mother, a wife, a caring, nurturing person for all these people who end up staying with them. She's trying to be everything. Yeah. And she's actually succeeding for a while. She says, she can cook really well. She can make costumes. She can do the business. She can she's everything for these people.
This is the Swiss finishing school, isn't it?
Yeah.
They turn out capable women, so she actually can look after people very well.
Yeah, yeah.
And she has a marketing degree. Well, she has a marketing experience. She didn't get the piece of paper.
Yes, yeah.
So actually, she's a really good person to go into partnership with.
Yeah, very much
if
so.
you're a burgeoning pop star, artist kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's the very thing. It does seem like this is a partnership rather than real love. Because when Bowie says, "Will you marry me?" it is partly for her visa.
Yeah.
And he actually says to her, "Can you deal with the fact that I'm not in love with you?"
Yeah.
And she says yes. You know, so it's very sad in many ways, because throughout this book, you just get these surges of love that she really loved this man, but she almost had to hide it because it wasn't cool, because they were just always in threesomes and foursomes, and it was all an open relationship. They could both have all these affairs. But beneath all that, I think, well, she actually says, she's like, I wonder if I could have just been a one-man woman, but I'll never know because I wasn't.
Yeah, right.
I get the feeling that underneath that is just a loving person who would have just liked to be with the one man. You know, if you take all that other stuff away, but you can't.
Yeah, but she says that he was incapable of being like that anyway. She likens him. What does she say? He's like an alley cat.
Yes, he was incapable.
A very bad alley cat.
The instincts of a bisexual alley cat. But almost in the way that he'd have to piss on something to claim it as his. That's how he used sex, to sort of claim everything, to clock it off. That's mine. I've had that. There's nothing more to it half the time.
Do you know what? She says, like in the early days, that there was this A&R guy and there was this manager, Ken, who she said she could just see the intense lust that Ken had for young David Bowie.
Yes.
And how David really lent into that.
Yes.
But in a way, I kind of think, you know what, the music industry is absolutely synonymous with abuse. It's these older record company executives abusing the artists. If David Bowie is doing that back the other way, kind of flirting with them and not giving it to them, good for him, actually.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, I'm glad he did that.
She does like almost devote a chapter to all the homosexuality in the music industry. She says the bees go where the honey is.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. He was using them back and tantalising people and sleeping with people, but not giving them anything. He's really quite cut off of emotion in many ways.
She does say that one of the sentences in this book, she says he's very cold and calculating.
Yes, and manipulative, yeah.
Yeah, she thinks it's because of the emotions in the household when he was growing up and the schizophrenia, which loomed large through his brother and his mum's sister. And he was actually quite worried about maybe being a schizophrenic himself, so he would always keep his emotions in check, and that would make him cold and calculating.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
And she actually said, it's interesting, I didn't realise it until I read it in the book, how his work, his songwriting, doesn't really come from personal emotion. It comes from observing other people.
Yeah, that's true.
He's like an observer, and he analyses stuff rather than doing it from his own heart, because she said that he was afraid.
Feeling it himself.
He was afraid of his own emotions. Very interesting.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it really is. But yeah, all this time, of course, with this homosexuality and stuff, they were pioneers in gay liberation. I mean, just being out about being bisexual and stuff, nobody had done that before. And he actually even said in the music press, I've always been gay or something. I'm gay and I always have been. And he said it with a smile. So the interviewer thinks he's just playing with him. But he sat there and said it, and he's not ashamed to say it. He changed so many people's lives.
For sure,
Just him alone, by just saying this sort of stuff. It's actually amazing.
Do you know, when I think of the timeline of him, I didn't realise how early in his... Right, the album, The Man Who Sold the World, where he's on the cover with long hair and a dress.
With that dress. Yes.
I didn't realise how early in his career that album came out.
Yeah, I know.
That could have been the kiss of death, actually.
Yeah, I know.
Well, in America, it kind of almost was for a long time. But also, there's amazing pictures that I've seen this week of when they had their baby. and it's of David and Angie with the pram. And
yes, I've seen it.
But he looks like the woman. She looks like the man.
She looks like the man. Yeah, because she had really short bleached hair.
You think this is 1971? This is...
Yes.
People should not be doing this in 1971.
Yeah.
That was so, like, balls out brave to be showing yourself to the world like that. And do you know what? I actually think that's a confidence of Angie that pushed all that and made that happen.
Yeah, yeah.
I think David's very soft, you know. I think he's clearly incredibly intelligent and the artistic genius that we all recognize him for. But I actually think the confidence and the drive and the motivation to say you need to put this part of yourself out there, that's all Angie.
Yes, yes.
That's her personality.
Yeah.
She's a brash, outspoken American.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Everyone needs one.
So, just to bring us up to speed, Space Oddity was actually a hit at the end of the 60s. And that's because it kind of coincided with the moon landing.
Yeah, they released it just a few weeks before the moon landing, or days or something. So it rocketed to the top of the charts.
No, it didn't. It only got to number 5.
That'll do.
Right?
Near the top.
No, but what happened is then Space Oddity was a hit. And then nothing happened. Well, he was still making records and music.
Oh, and they thought he was a novelty act.
And he was still doing this weird tour where he was a cabaret artist half the time. And then he was being a hippie with Angie and recording these other albums. But they didn't have chart success. And because Space Oddity was something that came out at the time of the moon landing, people kind of dismissed him as a novelty singer. We only remember Space Oddity is this big defining hit of the 70s because they re-released it in the mid-70s and it got to number 1.
Oh, that happened,
so we think about it like mid-canon of Bowie work, where actually it was the first chart hit and it was deemed a novelty for a couple of years until he started making more success with his rock album.
Yeah, I love that Angie said she bumped into Reg Dwight, otherwise known as Elton John. And he kept saying that he loved Space Oddity. And then not long after, he came out with Rocket Man. And David Bowie just said he didn't mind. He just, not long after that, he began composing on the piano, like Reg, instead of the guitar. So they kind of influenced each other. Anyway, carry on. All right, so, 1971, they had a son.
Zoe
Bowie or Zoe Bowie. Yeah.
No, is that or Zoe Bowie?
But actually, now he calls himself Duncan Jones and he's a film director and all sorts of other things.
Yeah.
That film he made, I think it might be called Moon.
Yeah, it is. He's made a few films.
It's absolutely brilliant. It's completely and utterly brilliant. Yeah, so he's become a good fellow.
Oh, isn't that interesting? So his dad was literally Space Oddity, Starman.
Exactly.
And then he does a film called Moon. But I don't like I don't like that he's just become Duncan Jones. There's something very, absolutely fabulous where the daughter's very straight-laced and the parents are crazy.
Yeah.
I think that sounds a bit like this. It's like David and Angie were just so completely, absolutely fabulous. And the kid is just like, I'm not being called Zoe Bowie. My name is Duncan Jones.
Oh, sorry, but he was actually christened Duncan Zoe Haywood Bowie. Right. So technically his surname is Jones and his first name is Duncan. So that is fair.
I know, but he could easily be Zoe Bowie.
Yeah, he could. So that's an important addition.
It is. What's interesting, they have the baby, and then Angie gets postnatal depression quite badly. And David's off. I mean, his career's got going at this point. He's making the album, which is going to bring him back into the charts. So he's very busy. He's touring. Angie's at home with the baby. And then one of her friends said, is it Dana Gillespie? I can't remember now. But one of her friends said, I'm going on holiday and I'm not going without you. So leave the baby at home. You need a break. You've got postnatal depression. So Angie goes on holiday.
To be fair, I think it was only about 2 weeks later. It's not like she'd been slaving away for like months.
Right.
I think it was about 2 weeks. But anyway, yeah. I'm not sure. But
so she goes on holiday, leaves the baby behind. And David's furious that she's done this. But it's kind of like, you're not there.
Yeah.
You're not at home with the baby. You're off touring. It's that real double standard that the mother has to stay with the baby.
Yeah. Okay, that is true. But there is such a thing as breastfeeding. And kids, there is a thing that kids really do connect with that and know that they're being nurtured. And to take that away is a bigger deal than taking the dad away, I think.
Well,
I'm not an expert, but I think that's true.
Okay.
I think it sows a massive seed of mistrust in her. And I think that it might trigger feelings of his own mother abandoning her son Terry and stuff. I don't know. But she says instantly that the sex has sort of fizzled out between them from around that time. But, I mean, that happens to a lot of people when they have a kid.
Oh.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. That happened with Elvis. Did Elvis never slept with Priscilla after she had Lisa Marie, right?
That is so true, yeah. But David Bowie actually reckons that he becomes allergic to Angie, and whenever he sleeps with her or gets close to her, he gets a rash.
That's very convenient.
Yeah, exactly. She says, I'll never know if it's true or not. She's looked into it. She went to the doctors, asked them. She can't find any truth in it. That's really awful.
No, he's allergic to her vagina, not allergic to her.
Yeah.
He literally says, like, I get a rash when we have sex. Like, he says his cock is allergic to her vagina. Is that right?
I would say that, yeah, that's right. I would say that's mentally triggered.
I mean, David Bowie, just tell her you don't want to have sex with her.
Or a lie. Yeah, or just a total lie. He doesn't like talking the truth. He doesn't like the truth. He doesn't like confrontation. Doesn't do real emotion or intimacy. So he's not going to talk to her.
So he sits in the bathroom with a felt tip and dots his knob with a rash. And says, oh, Angie, I can't. I'm allergic to you. Sorry. Rather than just tell her.
Look. Yes.
So at this point, we're at the beginning of the 1970s. His career has picked up again. He's hitting the charts. His albums are selling. He's becoming a bona fide, exciting star, right? And then this, yes. Angie is such a part of that. This is near the birth of Ziggy Stardust.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think that Angie is instrumental in creating Ziggy Stardust, but she certainly has a lot of input and influence. And she says one thing, because she has like a man's body, she would go shopping for the clothes and get clothes made because she knew anything that fitted her would fit David perfectly. That's very useful, actually.
That is very useful. It's not necessarily a man's body, it's just that both of them are quite skinny. And she can't just say, I've bought this for you. She has to manipulate it and buy these clothes for him and put them obviously in her wardrobe and wait till he gravitates over and tries them on. And then she says, you look amazing in that. So she's very careful with that. And also around this time, there's somewhere called the Sombrero Club in Kensington High Street, which is a gay club they started to frequent. And they met Freddie Beretti there. And he is the next person who's completely instrumental in turning Bowie into Ziggy, because he was a fashion designer and maker. And they put him on the payroll straight away. I looked him up. It's amazing. Yeah, he designed and made all his most iconic costumes of that period. And actually, when they moved to Chelsea, they actually moved him in, so he had his own studio there.
Oh, yeah.
To get your costumes made from one person continuously is key, I'd say.
You know, the one thing I like about Bowie and Angie and this scene is that they do collaborate.
Yeah.
Before they ended up in Chelsea, they had the big Haddon Hall house, and they would always have people back to stay, musicians, artists. They kind of really fostered this idea of a community.
Yes, they
and
did.
The
It sounds so cool.
Club was part of that. It's where all of the cool people in the swinging 60s met. And David and Angie really invited everyone in. They would come back to their house. They'd end up staying and they'd work with them. It was a real artistic
commune. I love it. There's this massive... I Googled the house because, you know, I get obsessed with the houses and the decor and stuff. I Googled it and there's this massive hallway, like huge sweeping staircase and banisters all around it. And because she keeps saying that a lot of people just took up residence in the hallway. So when she came in the morning and started making phone calls in the hallway, they would wake them all up. And I can really see that now. If you imagine a sweeping staircase and all around up there are people sleeping permanently, some of the band members. Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? So yeah, Hunky Dory, the album, a lot of the characters from that were based on the characters from that club. What's that Bowie video where he went to a place that Boy George worked when all that the New Romantic scene was coming? The Blitz Club. And Bowie walked into the Blitz Club and said, I'm making a video tomorrow. Any of you want to be there? Come down tomorrow. And Boy George wasn't there that night, and he was absolutely gutted.
Steve Strange got in there. That's the Ashes to Ashes
Steve
video,
Strange was in it. That's right, it was that.
Also, I think David could be quite cutthroat in that his band that he had, the whole Ziggy Stardust tour, what also seems incomprehensible to my mind, reading in this book, that obviously Ziggy Stardust didn't hit straight away. After Space Oddity, then it went quiet for like 3 years. He didn't all of a sudden just land with a bang again. He had to build it up. Angie says at the beginning of that Ziggy Stardust tour, some of the halls were half empty.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I find that astonishing.
Yeah, I know.
Now, because it's so entirely famous. Yeah, it's like iconic. And to think that that began with half empty concert
Yeah, I guess it
halls.
takes a while to get the word out. Yeah. Oh, yeah, because they'd signed with RCA, and that's how they got that America thing going. And they got to, Wind and died in New York City. They got to go to see Elvis at the Madison Square Gardens in 1972. And they're like, yes, we've made it. We're hanging out with everybody now.
Do you know what I was trying to work out? Quite a few of the books we've read now, people really cite the New York Dolls as an influence.
Yeah.
And then you and I were like, they're not men dressing like men who look like women. They look like women.
They're fully in drag, yeah.
David Bowie, the man who sold the world record cover, came before the New York Dolls.
That's so true.
Have I got that timeline right?
Yeah, this is early 70s, yeah.
Because so many people talk about them, I thought that they were the pioneers of this kind of cross-dressing. But actually, Bowie was there first, which actually means Angie Bowie started that.
That is so true. Yeah, she ended up going out with one of the New York Dolls as well, didn't she? Or going out with, shagging, whatever.
She went out with everyone.
Yeah. Mind you, they dressed as hoes, right? Whereas David Bowie was dressing like a beautiful woman.
Like Laura Ashley.
Yeah, he wasn't overdoing the makeup at that point. And later he became more alien androgynous. So he never dressed like a hoe.
Yeah, no, you're right. And what's interesting is that after that, when he became Ziggy and stepped into glam rock, he did look more otherworldly rather than actually feminine. Yeah.
Yes, he went for that. Yeah. He's just such a leader. It's just brilliant. By the way, can I just throw this in? I saw this music documentary once, nothing to do with Bowie, just general music. And this engineer was talking, and he said, yeah, people come in and we produce them, and they do like how many takes for days. He said, actually, the only person I've ever worked with who comes in and does one take and it's perfect is Bowie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's just absolutely perfect. He just never gets it wrong. Isn't that amazing?
Do you know who else I've heard that of?
Who?
Madonna. Almost everything that ends up on her albums is the first time she sang it, and she refuses to sing it again.
Oh, that's amazing.
It is amazing.
Prince as well.
Prince.
Yeah. I've got to throw him in. Got to throw him into it. Yeah, but I love that because I watched a bit of that. We come to it a bit really soon, actually, but that 1980 Floor Show. They filmed it live at the Marquee Club. It had Amanda Lear and Marianne Faithfull were guest people in it.
Oh,
and you just go, he's absolutely note perfect. He's just so musical, so theatrical, just amazing. You can't fault him. You can see his talent in that. It's phenomenal. It's just so good.
Right. Now you've mentioned Amanda Lear and Marianne Faithfull.
Yes.
I need to backtrack. On the night David Bowie's dad died and Angie and David were in the bedroom, they made a pact that they would spend the next couple of years concentrating on David's career.
Oh, yes.
And then when the time was right and they could, then they would launch Angie's career in the theatre she wanted to act.
Yes.
She wanted a career in the arts.
Yes.
Right? And it must have been very, very hard for her watching then, after making this agreement. She was very useful to him.
Yes.
On the business side of stuff, looking after people, schmoozing people, booking flights and cars even. Feeding people. She was doing it all.
Yeah.
And it must have been very hard for her then
shagging
to see
everyone.
when David got his career, not just shagging everyone, but he was using people like Amanda Lear and Marianne. He was working with other women, basically.
And the Ava Cherry.
Yep.
Yeah, she was saying it was all right for ages when he was just sleeping with everybody, she could deal with that. But then he started to have proper relationships like Ava Cherry. She was only 17. And he said, oh, you can be the next Josephine Baker. You're amazing. Started paying for her dance lessons, singing lessons, got a flat, put her in a flat. And I looked her up, and it's interesting because her dad was a musician who used to play with Count Basie. And in a way, it was his introduction into soul and the whole black culture and suits. And, you know, he was using her again to sort of to learn a whole new world. Where Angie had stopped being as useful to him. But like you say, and then she auditioned for Wonder Woman, and it was just... It wasn't even real. They were just using it as a way to get her on the Johnny Carson show, because then she could say, I've just auditioned for Wonder Woman. So she could promote David Bowie. And she'd actually thought that she might be up for that part, for real. She'd done so much research. And they go, oh, no, it was never your part. You know, that's already gone to Linda Carter.
Oh, because she's so into clothes and costumes, she actually went dressed as her idea of Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And she said that when she then saw her on TV... the costume Wonder Woman was wearing was similar to what she wore in the audition.
Exactly. Well, she said it was exactly the same there. They just copied it. She looks amazing as Wonder Woman. Pictures in the book, isn't it?
Yeah, it made me feel bad for her because there was this agreement that they would work on her arts career, and they never did.
I agree.
David just didn't want to know at that point.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And then around that time, when it's totally humiliating for her to have put all that effort in when it was just a scam, then they start building this whole world for Amanda Lear where they're going to make it... What's it called? Octavia or something?
Yeah, Octobriana, is it?
Yeah, Octobriana is this cartoon, comic character, yeah. And they were going to do it for Amanda Lear and make a whole film with her in. And it's just like, that's the point where it gets galling. Because not only is she just being used, but they're passing her over completely. And that's her dream, and that was the deal.
Yeah.
To be fair, right, David Bowie's then getting really into cocaine, and she feels that she's losing him at that point because he's just hanging around with all his coke mates and she's really left out. But then she dips into it as well. And she starts getting off it, her head, and it all just goes to pot, literally and metaphorically.
Oh, it gets really dark, yeah.
To the point where, oh my God, there's one point where he's lost the plot in LA and she goes to try and save him.
Is this where she says he gets possessed by the devil?
Yes.
Because
he completely thinks he's possessed.
There's some witches in a mansion.
Yes. So she flies to LA. She gets him a house to live in, and it's Gypsy Rose Lee's ex-house, by total coincidence. And there's unbeknownst to her, there's a hexagram on one of the floors. So he completely freaks out about that and thinks that she's trying to take him to the devil.
Oh, he thinks Angie's part of the devil.
Yes,
yeah,
of
and
the plan.
She's lured him there as some kind of sacrifice.
He's hysterical.
I mean,
I know. So that this is when you know he's doing too many drugs. So then she finds another house, which sounds amazing. This is LA, and it's a house that's all around the central piece, which is the pool. The pool's in the middle of the house. Superb, right? But then he thinks, David Bowie is absolutely convinced that Satan lives in the pool. So they have this ritual to remove Satan from the pool. Even she sees it. The pool bubbled. She said it actually thrashed. The water was thrashing, and she's doing the big lines of coke to try and cope with it. She goes, oh my God, you're no use. Everyone sees it, but then, you'll never know. And this shadow appeared on the bottom of the pool that wasn't there before and never went away.
They're all high, aren't they?
They're absolutely.
Rather than they're actually being the devil in the swimming pool.
They're off their heads.
Mind you, Hollywood, we're learning it more and more every day that Hollywood literally is almost the epitome of the devil. The things that go on there.
That's true. That's true.
Even like with everything that's going on with Diddy and stuff at the moment, it's just everything is just so dark. People do literally sell their souls.
Yeah, they really do. That is so true.
So even if this is just everybody high on coke, imagining an exorcism of a swimming pool, or I could actually even believe that it actually happened at this point.
I know. Yeah, I know. So as a total contrast to that, she's trying to get him into the Man Who Fell from Earth, and that's all really dark and it consumed him. And then as a tax haven, they go, let's move to Switzerland. So she goes out there and sets up a cuckoo clock house, right? Can you imagine David Bowie wanting to live in a cuckoo clock house. She set it all up to perfection. He gets there and she goes, he's actually horrified. Of course he is. He's horrified. He barely stays a night in it. And that pretty much packs him off to Berlin, where he lives in a really bleak apartment above an auto parts shop and used to eat in working men's cafes every day. And he started producing Iggy Pop Lust for Life. And because that's where his mind's at. It's not in a cuckoo clock house. You know, she's just got it so wrong there, but then she's off her head. So he's to Berlin. She goes to London and starts taking heroin.
Oh, my word, yeah.
You know, there's no hope for either of them at that point. It's amazing both of them lived as long as they did.
I know. It's certainly the rock and roll lifestyle, isn't it?
Yeah. It's sad. It took him a while to really succumb.
Yeah, you know, so what, they were together about 10 years and then they get divorced in 1980?
Well, it came through in 1980, but I think it probably happened about 75, around there. They totally were living separate lives.
Do you know what's interesting? At the beginning of this book, she says, David obviously won't like me writing this book. She said, but the truth is I haven't spoken to him in more than 10 years.
I know.
And she says, and that's terrible. But do you know what? I read about their divorce. And one of the conditions of the divorce is that she has a gagging order for 10 years.
Yeah, that's right.
So she waited for that 10 years to elapse.
Yeah.
And then she's like, right, I'm writing the book right now.
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
I don't blame her, really. I do feel like she was completely cast aside after she'd been very, very useful.
Yeah, she definitely was.
Of course, as David became the world-famous rock star, you know, he had lots of people working for him. There was this big production company called Main Man. It sounds like he was being ripped off by managers and stuff, actually.
Actually, he was totally being stiffed and diddled by his new manager, wasn't he?
Diddled, yeah, 100%. He wasn't
really was.
Seeing any money.
No, he wasn't seeing any of it.
And yet the manager had a fleet of cars in different houses. So the manager seemingly was doing very well out of David Bowie, but
Absolutely.
David Bowie wasn't doing well out of himself.
No.
It's a music industry for you.
It's amazing,
corrupt.
isn't it? Then, back to Nile Rodgers' book, which we still need to read, but I read years ago. There's a point where David Bowie was it was early 80s, and Nile Rodgers ran into him in a nightclub in New York, and he was just sat there on his own. So he went to chat to him, and he said, he doesn't have a record contract. He has nothing. He's got nobody. He actually had a gap. And Nile Rodgers went, I would absolutely love to work with you. And that's how all that modern love and all that 80s stuff came out. Yeah, the funky stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, where I first came into Bowie.
Well, I think that's what made him a true international icon, that album.
Mainstream is what it made him.
He was a very exciting, very cool rock star in the 70s. But yeah, he put on a suit and did that amazing Let's Dance album, yeah.
Put on his red shoes and danced the blues.
Yeah. So Angie just kind of fell into obscurity, really, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. I did listen to her on the Mike Douglas show. You know, she did that. She sang on it. Oh, it's bad. It's really bad.
Oh, do you mean where she was with Mick Karn, the bassist, and she did the poetry? Is that what you watched?
I don't know. There was no visual to it. It's just the audio. I was like, oh, no.
Oh, okay.
No wonder they didn't promote her.
There's a brilliant clip from the Old Grey Whistle Test where she's doing poetry and Mick Karn from Japan is playing the bass.
All right.
I mean, I think it's unfair that it's on the Old Grey Whistle Test. It's of its own thing. You could argue it's performance art. It shouldn't be on a rock show. If you put it on a rock show, people are going to laugh at you, and they did. If they'd have put her on some late night show about the arts, it would have been perceived in a different way, you know?
Right.
But people just wanted to hate her at that point. So,
oh, that's not fair.
Because everybody loved David.
Yeah.
But you know, another reason people don't like her is because in the divorce, she gave David full custody of their son. And she said the reason being that he was so heavily into drugs that she thought if he had full custody of the son, he wouldn't be able to be. He'd have to sort himself out. I don't know.
So I'll give my son to the man who's totally off his head on drugs.
Yeah.
That could be perceived in a different way.
Yeah, right.
Maybe negligent. Yeah, I don't know. You can't put it all on her. It's not
They
fair.
don't have a good relationship, Duncan Jones and his mum, Angie Bowie. They don't talk anymore.
She says that at the beginning of the book, that she hasn't talked to Bowie since the day they divorced, and she hasn't talked to her son for quite a few years, and it's really, really sad.
Yeah, and I even recently, I think it was about 10 years ago, she said, no, you know, I've tried, but I don't have anything to do with him anymore. And then he said, when somebody asked him, in an interview, he said, no, she's a very corrosive person. Do you know what? It's obviously she's not my mother and she's not my wife. She's not even my manager.
Yes.
I think if she's in your life and you deal with her on a daily basis, I think she's probably very hard to cope with. But essentially, as a person and as a mover and shaker in the music industry and as an artist in her own right, I do give her credit. She didn't really have her own artistic career, but the input, who was the guy you said, the designer who moved in with David Fratelli?
Freddie Beretti.
Freddie Beretti.
Freddie Beretti, great name.
If we're gonna give him credit for contributing to Bowie's career, then we give her credit too.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's doing all the right things. You know what? It's kind of, I think she lost David to drugs. I think she was unfairly treated. I think the management company, who probably wanted to do things their own way, probably said to David, you know what, Angie's done her time, let's get rid of her. And also, don't lose sight of the fact that if they divorced in 1980, that was ashes to ashes, right? Bowie was still doing the Blitz Club and he did that video dressed as Pierrot the Clown and stuff. His next major release was with Nile Rodgers. What did he look like? He looked like a man in a suit.
Yes, he did. Boring, but it gave him major success.
It was very, very good, and it helped him cross over to massive mainstream success in Middle America, who, of course, had abandoned him because he wore a dress in the 70s. But I think that show Angie was with him throughout the whole of the 70s. So that exciting, iconic rock star.
I have to say, I think it was only till 75. It says the divorce went through in 1980, but all that stuff where he went to Berlin, that was about 75, I think.
Well, he did that to get away from her. So
I know. So they were totally living separate lives. So I think they were together about like 68. I can't be sure. But yeah, let's say that. Carry on.
But visually, he got more boring without her.
Yeah, you're right. But he had to move on because he's a creative being. He had to evolve.
I think she knows that as well, you know.
She knows.
Like I said at the beginning, I do think that the diehard fans might not like her, but they do still give her the credit for her input. So she is kind of recognised.
That's fair.
A bit, you know.
She's no Yoko.
Yeah.
She didn't split up the band. She created the band, and then they split up with her.
Yeah.
So you can't hate her.
No, I quite like her actually, and I feel quite bad for her.
Yeah. She's definitely a character.
Yeah, she is, and this book was just so entertaining. She's so crass at times.
I know. Bloody hell.
It's just like, Angie, stop it. Don't say that.
I don't need to have the details.
This is the father of your child.
Yeah, I know.
But what a ride she had.
Quite literally. And as opposed to John Lennon's wife said if she knew what it was going to turn out to be like, she would never have signed on. Whereas Angie Bowie said, I wouldn't have missed it for the world. What a party.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Thrift Shop Biography. We love making this podcast and we're absolutely thrilled that so many of you are already listening. You could really help us out by leaving us a review somewhere, wherever you listen to this podcast. And if you could share us, tell your friends about us, or drop some links on social media. We have a Facebook page called Thrift Shop Biography, so make sure you come over there to hear about the episodes first and what else we're up to. Okay, see you next week. And if you're new here, there are loads more episodes now to go and listen in the back catalogue, so make sure you go and enjoy them. Okay, thank you very much.